Welcome back, YouTube, to Icy Chap's Edge. I'm Icy Chap here with another review, this time looking at a tactical folder, or what I call an EDC fighting knife. And what I mean by EDC fighting knife is basically this. Fighting knives present us with a kind of dilemma, that being how to carry them so that they're going to be comfortable but also accessible. Now, fixed blade tactical knives usually come with a sheath system that allows for multiple types of carry, that makes the knife accessible under all conditions. But let's face it, most of us have lifestyles and jobs that are not going to be conducive to us carrying around a fixed blade tactical knife. And that's really where a folding knife can shine. This knife is the Columbia River M16 13Z. It's part of a line of Carson-designed tactical folding knives, and this happens to be my personal favorite of the bunch. It's the smallest and I think has the best blade design. It's a very light knife, weighs in at 3.5 ounces, and I'll explain why I like it so much. First, let me just say it is absolutely not a utility knife and not a wilderness knife. It doesn't have very good blade steel, it's not going to hold its edge very well, and there's really no belly to the knife at all. So for cutting tasks, it's going to be pretty poor. But for slashing and for stabbing, I think it's going to do pretty well. It's got that spear point, dagger-like blade. It does not have a second edge to it, but it's a folding knife, so that would be impractical. It does have some serrations, which personally I find basically useless, but I suppose if you needed to cut some string or something, you could use that. You've got AUS-4 steel, which is a pretty crappy steel, but that's not that important with this type of blade design, and here's why. When you have that grind and bevel down the center of the knife like that, the center of gravity is really in the center of the knife. And when you thrust, all your force is going straight through that tip. And that's a very sharp tip. You've got a ground false edge, and that really narrows the tip and makes it a good piercing weapon. So it's a great stabber. For slashing, I think it's going to be decent. Again, this isn't great steel, so it's not going to take a tremendous edge, but it will be enough that on a hard slash you're going to penetrate skin, and possibly a layer or two of clothing. So this is a good design for a fighting blade. Why is this folding knife still a good choice when there are daggers, which are fixed blades, that could definitely serve that role? Well, here's why. First, let me show you the knife closed. It's nice and thin, it's very light at 3.5 ounces, has the pocket clip. Unfortunately, the pocket clip is not adjustable. It's only set for tip down carry and only on the right side. But that being said, you do have the pocket clip and it's a very light knife, so if you do put this on a pocket, you're not even going to feel it. So for carry, it's going to be comfortable. Number two, it's thin, so it's not going to bump into things. It's also going to be comfortable because of that. Let's look at the opening. Knife deploys very, very fast with the flipper. It does have ambidextrous thumb studs, but they're basically useless because they're so flush against that Zytel scale. See how they're kind of recessed there. Nice thing about that flipper is it forms a finger guard. Also very important for a fighting knife. Have something preventing your fingers from coming over the blade during a hard stab. Another thing to notice about that lockup is how secure it is. It's unbelievably secure. There's absolutely no blade play. In fact, this blade feels almost like a fixed blade knife. And that's for really two reasons. One, you have full steel liners and a Zytel spacer, which make the handle itself very rigid and strong. Number two is the Columbia River auto lock system. And what that basically means is I've got a liner lock, but the liner does not, you can see, it doesn't disengage when I just press on the liner. I actually have to disengage this lock first. It's kind of a lock for a lock. Once I disengage that lever, then I can press the liner over and then I can close the knife. That double lock makes this incredibly strong and really trustworthy in a combat situation. There's no way this knife is going to become disengaged or that lock is going to break because you've got that extra redundancy of a second lock. So really a very, very strong, stiff design and a great blade shape. It's very lightweight at 3.5 ounces. The blade coating is, I guess, non-reflective. It's Teflon, but I do like that it's this light color. And that just boils down to basically my philosophy in an encounter. I'm not going to use this knife in any kind of clandestine fashion, if you will. If I pull this knife to defend myself, what I'm really hoping is that the would-be attacker is going to basically lose interest in me because I've offered some kind of resistance. And I think a blade that actually is visible is going to be more effective for that. I mean, let's face it, if we are forced into a situation where we have to defend ourselves physically, then we should, and we should do so vigorously. But if we can avoid that with a little bit of intimidation, then we should also employ intimidation as a weapon and hopefully defend ourselves without ever having to strike someone. So for all of those reasons, I think the Columbia River M16 line are all great knives, but this 13Z is my favorite of the bunch. And they're all very economical, very affordable. And if this is what you're looking for, a tactical folder or EDC fighting knife, I think this is really something you should consider at the top of your list. So that's my review. I hope you enjoyed it. Oh, I can't go without giving the knife a score. I actually score this knife an 8 out of 10. And that is recognizing the fact that it has such poor capabilities when it comes to utility and when it comes to any kind of wilderness survival task. But if you're focusing simply on tactical and fighting capabilities in an EDC folding knife, I think this knife is really a top choice. And so for that reason, I give it an 8 out of 10. Hope you enjoyed the review. Leave comments, subscribe, and have a good one.